Hey everybody, it's an oil change video. We've got a few of those. I suggest you watch them all, especially if you're not used to doing oil changes and you've realized you can't even get the basics done right at your local service center or dealership. A lot of the time, not always, but if you choose for the reliability of doing it yourself, then here's some information for you. Firstly, on our YouTube channel, go to the playlist, check oil change videos. You'll gather lots of different little bits of information from watching all of those. You can see this sump plug looks like it hasn't been out for a while. It was actually out in February 2025, and now it's August 2025, about 7,000 Ks later. So it's time for, this time it's going to be just an oil change. The oil filters can last well over 10,000 Ks. There'll be no issues there. So this oil filter is actually going to do about 12,000 because the last oil change was at something like 467. And that was oil and filter, as it turned out. And now it's 475, so it's going to be just oil because it's a waste of time changing the filter. Some people go, just change it anyway. You can just do that if you want, but it's just a waste of money and a waste of time. So out the oil is going to come, and then at 480K is where it's going to get an oil and filter. It'll be back on schedule again. 14mm socket's what you need. Underneath the engine bay, remove your oil cap first, which we can see we removed and cleaned. That way you don't forget. You've got to put oil back in. It's on the bench where you won't lose it. Don't worry about that. I just picked it up at the servo, some grot, spilt oil everywhere and broke a funnel, left it. So I did a bit of cleanup and I thought, you know what, could come in handy. So I'll just grab that. So there you go. That's my story for the day. Pull the dipstick out, leave it in there, but leave it and it'll be sticking up and it's yellow on the end. That way you sort of can't forget and everybody knows you do an oil change. It's just a bit of a safety precaution. Single hex sockets is what I recommend. This one has removed thousands of 1KD sump plugs and a short extension to reach up there. I use a breaker bar to crack it loose, and it's about 34 Newton meters, 35, whatever, on the sump plug, and a new washer is a good idea. Genuine, you can get these at your local dealer, but as you can see, I've got plenty. So if you're buying an injector kit, feel free to, hey, Ant, can you chuck in a couple of sump plug washers for me? Bada bing, bada boom. If you do decide you need a genuine oil filter, cheapest way to change an oil filter, check out the lsiauto.com.au website, and don't forget our discount code 4B4 Diesel. Easy to remember, same as the YouTube channel here. And that brings me to think, it's got the horsepower rotors on it. All our cars have got the horsepower rotors on them, no problem. Genuine Toyota pads from LSI Auto. So I'm going to drop this sump plug out. Like I said, new washer each time, 35 Newton meters thereabouts. Precaution, I like to change oil hot because it drains out better. Cold, it's just a bit slow. It'll come out in the end. So that's acceptable as well. But if you drive in like I have and it's really hot, when you pull the sump plug out, it'll be really hot and thin and it could go everywhere and it gets hot and dangerous. So have your gloves on, and if you have just driven in hot, depending on your climate, let it sit for half an hour to an hour before you drop the plug out, but don't run the engine cold or it's going to make a mess at your oil filter because it's going to leak back out if you get that wrong. But that's in the other videos, check it out. This one's just a quick oil change. And that's what the oil looks like when it's draining, and you'll see the sump plug washer sticks to the sump on most oil changes on most cars, so make sure you get that off. The oil will look very black even though it's not too bad. And make sure you've got your drain tray underneath catching the oil, and dispose of it responsibly. Your local tip or recycling facility, our one actually takes oil for free, domestic amounts only. Bada bing, bada boom. Check your oil pickup anyway, because you can. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get into the injector information playlist also. This vehicle gets overused and over-inspected and probably over-kept clean. Not looking too bad for nearly 500,000 Ks, but let's have a quick look around at a few things like the brakes to make sure we've got plenty of meat there still while that oil's draining. That's what you do, drop the oil. The front pads are still like new because this does mainly highway Ks. I'm an efficient driver. I don't really use the brakes too much at all. It's bone dry, clean, lubricated recently, so probably won't get any lubrication this time. Drive shafts, quick look around the suspension, bone dry there. Bit of grease stain from years and years of lubrication, grease and dust sticking to it. K-On underbody protection, k-on.com.au. Same discount code, 4B4 Diesel. We just want to have a look at those rear pads, and I can see from out here that, yep, the pads are a good at least 80%. I don't need to spend too much time looking at that. While I'm under here, some important things I want to do is just give this diff breather a bit of a, make sure it hasn't been caked in mud or dust, and make sure that's all free and clean. Spray some brake cleaner on it if you like. give that a clean out. Check your fuel hose isn't split. If it's been replaced, you should be right, but check it every now and then. Make sure you haven't got any spring or suspension issues, oil leaks, weeps, checking for leaks at wheel bearings and that. You know, this sort of thing, axle bearings. There's a bit of a story with all our vehicles. But this video isn't about the story, it's just a quick oil change video. So when the oil's finished draining. So with that one, what we do, we just get a big flat blade screwdriver, just give it a bit of a knock and that'll pop off. Get a rag, make sure you clean up all this old oil. And you can see the oil pick up. You can already see it is very clean and clear the way it's meant to be. You can let the oil drain as long as you like with these engines, but some engines you need to get the plug back in pretty quickly and get the oil back in there before you end up needing an engine. Yep, pretty stupid setup sometimes, but that's what it is. So check each individual vehicle, oil change. If you've got a DPF, you need to use DPF oil. All right, let's let it drain and get the plug back in. Yeah, it doesn't bother me because it's your time, not mine. You can sit here for another hour or two and watch that drip. But there's a lot more oil still in the engine than what's going to drip out of there, so it's time to put the sump plug in, unless you're into wasting time or you've got other things to do. Now that we've got the sump plug in, talk to specification, nice and clean so you could eat off it, even though you can see dirt around it. It's time to think about putting oil back in. And we've got a lot of different oils we can use in these 1KD engines because they're really not that fussy, to be honest. The main thing is that the oil's good quality and that it's clean. And I just like this. It's always generally been a good value for money, especially when you could get it on special for 50 bucks. You can't get that anymore, but a really good special on the 10 litre one of these, I reckon, is around the 70 to 80 mark. Closer to 70 would be better, but you just got to keep your eye out and stock up when it gets to be that. Otherwise, yeah, you can go full synthetic and you can use a 530 if you like. All depends where in Australia you are. I'm not going to go on about it too much. It doesn't really matter which one you use. The thinner it is, it's going to be better for cold startups and fuel economy, and the heavier oil, particularly the 40, for the hot, the towing, and the up north in Australia. So have a think about it, do a bit of basic oil research, and you'll be able to figure it out for yourself. Extra 10 full zinc. Zinc is the stuff that sticks to the engine components. So when you do your cold startup, that's what protects it until the oil gets there. Got this one there as well. You could use that one if you wanted to. Yep, you could even use this one. This is the one we use in the Patrol because it asks for a 530, even though maybe I don't fully agree, but good oil. This is actually one I really like because it's a 540 and it's a full synthetic. This is probably good to chuck in just about bloody everything, all these engines that we work on. If it was up to me, this would be my choice for the 1KDs, for the Patrol, for the V6 1GRFE. This is your all-round winner really, but it is a bit more expensive and you can get close enough to this sort of protection at slightly lower cost point and variations. For example, back to these Nulons again, Nulon 530 even, bada bing, and there's a lot of other options. Any of that clean stuff that's been refined and filtered with some fresh additives in it is going to be much better than this black stuff that's contaminated with diesel fuel. And it's just degraded. It's not bad oil. You'll probably find this is good, better than a lot of people's engine oils. You've got to take into account average vehicle speed, which equates to engine hours. Engine hours, cold starts and trips is a lot more important than kilometers. I could probably do my vehicles every 20 or 30,000 Ks and the oil would be in better condition than a lot of these ones that get done every 10,000 Ks because their average speed is about 20 Ks an hour a lot of the time, where mine's closer to 100. Hopefully most people on the mathematics side get that. Something to think about. You've got to consider all these things. Where is your vehicle being used? What average speed? Reset it and have a look and you might be surprised. Think about it. Quick tip for the DIY or even myself. This is what I do because I've done it forever. I've got this really old funnel. It's about bloody 40 years old, I reckon. And that's all I use. There's probably a better one out there, but I find when I try and buy funnels, they just seem to be crap quality and not the sizes and things that I want. So I stick with what I know works. And I've got a very old, this is probably a 10-year-old container from this stuff is perfectly suitable for these engines as well. Something that I used to use. I think it's another good range for, you know, the hotter climates in Australia. Full synthetic oil, good size, 6-litre container. But this is my oil transfer container. So I pour it from here to here at the bench, 4 litres plus 3 litres. You know, you just read it on there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 plus 4, 7. That's what the 1KD takes. So let's get it in there. once you've poured in that love juice for the 1 kd, don't waste a drop of it, because it's expensive these days. Prices have doubled, which is why don't overdo your oil changes either, because you could be just wasting oil. Watch the videos, subscribe, turn the bell on to know when to change your oil. But I'm going to sit it like that and collect every last drop of that gold. So the oil's in the hole, it's time to put the cap back on, and then we can push our dipstick in, double check the oil level, and have a think about if we remembered to tighten up the sump plug, because double, triple checking these things is important. If you forget that, the whole saving money thing is down the drain, because the engine will be cactus with no oil. You can use the sticker off the bottle, but this is how I write my stickers. Product use as much as you like, but I don't write when the next service is due. I write when it was done. I'd rather know when it was done, what date and what kilometers, rather than when it's due next. I mean, I'll work out when it's due next depending on how many kilometers and how old it is. I don't mind oil that's a year old. If it's only done a few thousand Ks, just leave it in there. Especially if your EGR solution is in place, is the main one I'm talking about. If you've got a stock standard EGR, you're going to want to stick to 5,000 K oil changes regardless. There's the old sticker. See, write what you've done. Oil and filter. That's what mattered. 467K, 475. Beautiful. Stickers on the window. Happy days. Dipsticks all the way in. Happy days. Oil level checked. Yep, there's oil in there. Caps on. Beautiful. No need to over tighten it. Job done. Catch you in the next video. If you subscribe with the bell on, and don't forget to hit that like button. See ya.